Good evening and welcome to the Northwest Speaking Bearcats Showcase. I'm your host, Dante Jones. We have a great lineup tonight featuring 6 extremely talented performers, all competing for national championships. Starting off with Miss Emily Myers in Persuasive Speaking.
I'm Emily Myers and I'm going to be doing a persuasion, which is a 10-minute speech about just persuading the audience. It's about a new database that was created out of St. Louis called the Exchange Initiative Database. And it's supposed to try and limit the amount of hotel rooms that sex trafficking can take place in. Since my senior year of high school, I really wanted to go into ministry, and then God just really put it on my heart to go focus on women ministry. So I just think this is a really good cause because it's something that, as an individual, when you stay at hotels, you can actually take an active role in combating sex trafficking. I started doing theater and that kind of stuff in middle school, and then my freshman year of high school I joined the speech and debate team, and that's really when it took off from there. It's an awesome experience just to be able to talk in front of people, since most people don't enjoy doing that, and to find actually enjoyment out of that I consider a really great opportunity. Last year I was fortunate enough to be the national champion in 2 separate events, which is completely crazy as a freshman, or really anywhere in your college to career, to have a national championship, let alone 2. But it's just a really great opportunity. You see so much talent from all over the country, and it's just a really great learning opportunity and just experience as a whole to travel with your team and just to get to experience it all. And then just having the friendships of the team, because we travel all over the country almost every weekend together, so just the friendships I've made through it have been awesome as well. Kesha, a 16-year-old African-American girl from Florida, ran away from the foster care system at the age of 14. To escape the sexual harassment of her foster care family, she met Master D. Master D promised to help Kesha if she promised to help him. For the next 2 years, without money and without options, Kesha was forced to prostitute herself at the behest of Master D, until she had raised enough money to pay him back for his help. Sadly, Kesha is not the only victim of the sex trafficking industry. In the 2013 United Nations Global Initiative to Fight Human Trafficking, they estimate that between 100,000 and 300,000 children are at risk for sex exploitation in the United States alone. And according to the Covenant House, 85% of these children are runaways. Sex trafficking is an all too real problem. According to the United States Department of Justice, between 2008 and 2010, the sex trafficking industry in the United States was making over $90 million a day. That is an annual revenue of over $30 billion. Look, I'm going to level with you for a minute. We all know the problems and we all know the causes. Instead of wasting your time telling you old information, I'd rather focus on how you can take an active role in combating this plague. Perhaps one of the greatest tools in combating sex trafficking is the Exchange Initiative Database. According to the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on March 11, 2014, many victims of sex trafficking are often advertised in hotel rooms that they are later sold to Johns in on websites such as Backpages.com. The problem? Even if law enforcement are monitoring these sites, which they are, they have no way of identifying the location. But that's where the Exchange Initiative comes in. By having hotel guests upload photos of their hotel room to the database, law enforcement can pinpoint the location where these victims are being trafficked and shut them down for good. In order to combat sex trafficking, we need to become more active participants, instead of the typical problem-cause-solution format. Today, we're going to be discussing the advantages of participating in the Exchange Initiative database development. To that end, first, we'll discuss how you represent a vital role in the battle to end sex trafficking. Second, the advantages that this database will have on the hotel industry. Before finally, the ways in which this database will greatly increase law enforcement's ability to intervene and prosecute the perpetrators. Now, when it comes to sex trafficking, the easy assumption is that there is little to nothing that most of us can do to stop what Business Insider on August 12, 2014 calls the most common form of modern-day slavery. But perhaps that is the greatest advantage of the Exchange Initiative database, the ability for everyone to get involved. Now, in order for the database to work, it needs points of data. CNN on March 1, 2012 contends that hotel guests can help in this process by uploading photos of their hotel room to the database. Special interest should be paid to the skyline view from the windows, curtains, bedspread and headboard, and the wallpaper in bathrooms. Guests should also include the name of the hotel they are staying in and the room number. However, a 2013 report from the American Association of Hotel and Lodging claims that there is over 51,000 hotels and motels in the United States, which means there's over 4.1 million guest rooms nationwide. There would be no way to collect data on all of these rooms without the public's help. And that's where you come in. As the speech and debate community, we stay in hotels almost every weekend in all different parts of the country. Tonight, when you go back to your hotel room, or next weekend at the next tournament, take 5 minutes and take some pictures of your hotel room and send them into the database. I provided these cards with a link to the database on them. Take one and take it with you when you travel. Also, take one for a friend so that they can have it when they travel. This database will only be able to combat sex trafficking if we give it the weapons to do so. Pimps like to use hotels because they're easy to move the girls around in, and Johns blend in with the other guests. If we're going to stop this practice, the hotel industry needs to be involved. And here are the benefits of doing so. Brad Myers, the executive director of the Polaris Project, a national human trafficking resource center, told NBC News on June 19, 2013, that many hotels fear the negative press that is associated with sex trafficking happening on their properties. The February 2, 2014 Huffington Post agrees, saying that many hotel guests will try to avoid hotels that are linked to talk of sex trafficking. Corporate policy also prevents much action from the hotel industry. For example, the Blackstone Group, which owns La Quinta Inns and Suites, Wyndham Worldwide, and the Hilton Hotel Corporation. In their January 2015 Blackstone Group Code of Business and Ethics report, it warns employees to not take matters into their own hands. On page 6 it reads, "Employees are encouraged to act solely for the benefit of the firm and its clients and should not be influenced by personal interest that may be coming from other individuals or business concerns." Essentially, these hotels become safe grounds for these traffickers because no action from the hotel itself is taken. But that's where the Exchange Initiative comes in. By having hotel guests upload photos of their hotel room to the database, hotel staff no longer has to worry about going against corporate policies. Additionally, the St. Louis Post on March 11, 2014 contends that by uploading these photos to the database, it makes it much more difficult for traffickers to use these popular sites. The Center of Missing and Exploited Children explains that pimps are gossipers. As soon as one police officer comes to a hotel to investigate about sex trafficking, that hotel becomes off limits to the traffickers. In the Persons in Trafficking report, which is done by the State Department, they found that for every 6,396 people that were trafficked in 2012, only one person was convicted. Until the creation of the Exchange Initiative database, law enforcement was losing the battle of sex trafficking to the clock. The Hartford Courant on August 25, 2014 explains that pimps will typically move their escorts on a 3-night rotation in order to leave law enforcement in the dark. By the time police were hearing and tracking tips, victims were being moved and they were forced to start from scratch. Even more problematic, according to the Chicago Sun-Times on September 18, 2013, it can take a police officer up to 36 hours to receive a search warrant. giving pimps more than enough time to move their property. But with the Exchange Initiative database, it solves the problem of time for law enforcement. Molly Hackett, one of the assistants in planning and development of the Exchange Initiative database, said in a personal interview on January 25, 2015, that the application's picture matching technology uses hundreds of points of data in every single picture. This picture matching becomes probable cause, which allows law enforcement to act quickly and save the victims in the photo. Today, we've examined the advantages of utilizing the Exchange Initiative database to combat sex trafficking. By taking just a few minutes when you check into your hotel, you can help ensure that law enforcement has access to every hotel room in America, and that children like Kesha can escape the cycle of sex trafficking. And who would have thought that one of the greatest tools in combating sex trafficking has been sitting in your pocket all along?
Welcome back to the Northwest Speaking Bearcats Showcase. Up next, we have a communication analysis presented by Nick Van Ross.
Nick Van Ross. I'm a sophomore and I'm doing my CA over Orlando Jones's Bullet Bucket Challenge. CA communication analysis, basically what you do is you take like something that was done on a usually social media scale, and then you kind of talk about how that can be used to analyze our society a little bit and why it's important.
He says that we've seen events like this carried out in cities all across the world, but he doesn't point fingers. Instead, he provides his own challenge.
We want to do something that talked about Ferguson a little bit because it's such a hot button issue. And even though communication analysis isn't necessarily about talking about specific issues, it's the way that people talk about those issues that makes it more important. So, because even as a black man, of course I do have my fears. I've grown up in the same mentality of a lot of black youth, the idea that you got to be careful around the police, but this is something that's affecting everybody. And I think regardless of where you stand with the racial issue, everybody's going to be impacted by this pretty soon. And so I think somebody needs to say something in a way that'll get everybody's attention. And I think that's why this piece really interested me a lot too. So what I want people to take out of that is that there are things that are being done, but at the end of the day, you have to kind of get more involved in the process. Take a Mizzou-sized campus. Well, maybe I wouldn't say Mizzou-sized, but depending on where we go, I guess. But you'll have to go back and forth. You might walk 3 or 4 miles going from round to round to round. And you perform inside of classrooms, and after you're done performing that, you got to go to the next thing. And it literally becomes, later on in the tournament, whoever has the strength to be able to finish it out. You got to do all this walking. The performing is a lot on your not conscience, but on your mind, because you are literally having people sit there and judge you all day. It's literally a love-hate relationship. It is the most tiring thing that I've ever done. And I did sports clear throughout high school, but it's just, the people are great. It's a different type of work. Even though your team does matter, it also matters that when it comes down to it, you are responsible for your own success. And so even if you experience minimal success, that minimal success was because you worked hard and tried to get there.
The summer of 2014 was characterized by the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. According to the ALS Association, on August 19th of 2014, from the period of July to August, the campaign gained $115 million. The campaign generated both donations and laughter from those who watched the videos. Now on August 18th of 2014, actor and comedian Orlando Jones decided to take his very own Ice Bucket Challenge. He stated that he was bringing attention to this very serious disease like many other people by accepting this challenge. And as he lifted the bucket over his head, instead of being doused by water, he was immediately covered with hundreds of bullets. He states that he took this challenge in the manner that he did in order to bring attention to the actions in Ferguson, Missouri, which were a direct result of the death of Michael Brown at the hands of Officer Darren Wilson on August 9th of 2014. Jones states that we have seen events like this carried out in cities all across the world. But he doesn't point fingers. Instead, he provides his own challenge: to listen without prejudice, to love without limits, and to reverse the hate. Given the fact that Orlando Jones's bullet challenge co-ops and subverts a popular social media trend in order to provide a greater social challenge, we can ask today's research question: how does Orlando Jones's bullet challenge video utilize perceptions of incongruity as a vehicle for protest? Now, before we can answer this question, we must first turn to Ann Teresa Demo's article entitled "Guerrilla Girls: Comic Politics of Subversion," which was published in the spring 2000 edition of Women's Studies in Communication. The reason that this article is appropriate for our analysis is because it explains how a piece of visual rhetoric can be used to challenge and ultimately subvert incongruous traditional social norms. So today, we will first analyze Ann Teresa Demo's model, next apply it to Orlando Jones's bullet bucket challenge, and then finally provide some very critical implications. The Guerrilla Girls are a group of women artists and art world professionals who utilize their displays and exhibits to undermine incongruous statements pertaining to traditional social norms of women in our society. Demo then explains that in order for a piece of visual rhetoric to properly be used as a form of protest, it must meet three key tenets: mimicry, an inventive revision of history, and strategic juxtaposition. The first, of course, being mimicry. Demo explains that the difficulty in mimicry is exposing the incongruity of a traditional norm without necessarily being reduced to it. The Guerrilla Girls accomplish this by utilizing the term girls in their name and the color pink in their posters. By retaking the idea of femininity, the Guerrilla Girls were indeed successful. Next, an inventive revision of history. The Guerrilla Girls' overall message is that women artists are just as important, if not more so, to their male counterparts in the history and the existence of art culture. In the book published in 1998, Guerrilla Girls: The Bedside Companion to the History of Art, it explains that women artists have largely been left out of other texts, stating that the game has once again been rigged by the disenfranchised groups. Third and finally, strategic juxtaposition. Expanding on Burke's comic corrective, strategic juxtaposition brings together two status groups in a state of tension in order to undermine the statements that they are wishing to proceed with. The Guerrilla Girls accomplish this by taking the images and statements provided by institutions and then providing their own ironic headers to underscore anti-feminist positions. Now that we have analyzed Demo's model, we are going to apply it directly to Orlando Jones's bullet bucket challenge. The first, mimicry. Orlando Jones accomplishes this by directly aligning himself with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. By stating that he is joining lots of others and then accepting this challenge, he provides the viewer with the idea that he is directly involved with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. In doing so, Jones was able to garner more views and spread his message on a much larger basis. The second, being an inventive revision of history. Over this past summer, we've all seen images and videos of people dumping buckets of ice water over their heads. Jones makes the statement that he's seen an entire city turned into a total war zone, giving us another reason to remember last summer. In making the statement that the deaths of young black bodies like Trayvon Martin and Mike Brown are a product of hate and intolerance, he gives us another reason to analyze why we should remember the past summer. Third and finally, strategic juxtaposition. Jones, by aligning himself with the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, was able to explain why the issue of police militarization and race is one that should be analyzed on a much heavier basis. In making the statement that he intends to send his $100 check directly to the ALS Association, Jones explains that the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge intent is very noble, but shows at the end of the day that the United States has a bigger concern when it pertains to our police militarization and racial constructs. Having analyzed Ann Teresa Demo's model, applied it directly to Orlando Jones's bullet challenge video, we can finally answer today's research question. How does Orlando Jones's bullet challenge video utilize perceptions of incongruity as a vehicle for protest? By Jones ultimately co-opting and subverting the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, he was able to allow us to concern ourselves more deeply with police militarization within our culture. The implications are twofold. The first, being on a rhetorical level. By Jones ultimately utilizing the formula of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, he was able to gain a larger audience to the statement that he was attempting to make. Jones makes the statement that he does applaud the intent of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge on a very frequent basis, and by doing so, he allows for us to understand why it is important for him to align himself with a popular social media trend. Breitbart on October 26, 2014 explains, by utilizing the formula of the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, Jones was ultimately able to gain 2 million hits on YouTube. While he utilized the formula to gain more followers, it was in the social means that he was able to spread his message more heavily. Our second implication comes in the form of social analysis. The social analysis impact talks about how we need to more concern ourselves with the idea of race and police militarization within our society. By Jones making the statement that he is a black man, but also NRA member and law enforcement officer, it makes it difficult to dismiss his criticism. CNN on October 23, 2014 explains that by an African American utilizing their position in order to speak specifically about actions of police brutality, it creates an us versus them mentality, regardless of your side on the dispute. By making the statement that he is African American and also a member of NRA and law enforcement, he problematizes these discourses, making a statement that it isn't an issue of just black versus white or police versus citizens. Today, we have analyzed Ann Teresa Demo's model, applied it directly to Orlando Jones's bullet challenge video, and finally provided some very critical implications. When Jones lifted the bucket over his head, many viewers thought they were seeing another celebrity take part in the Ice Bucket Challenge. It wasn't until the bullets started falling that we realized he was challenging us to a much more daunting task.
Thanks for joining us on the Northwest Speaking Bearcats Showcase. I'm your host, Dante Jones. Coming up next is Mercedes Moore. Her prose piece is about an adopted daughter being contacted by her birth mother. Mercedes' presentation emphasizes that often small things will have a big impact in our lives.
When my mom called me into the kitchen, I assumed it had something to do with my homecoming dress. We bought it online. Rookie mistake. It was supposed to be this deep red with a black tulle bottom, peacock embroidery into feathers. But instead, it was more of this orange with some kind of weird flower thing. The bottom didn't even look finished. It looked like a damn Halloween costume. It was senior year. I finally had the perfect dress, at least the perfect date. If I had this dress with a pair of heels, then I'd finally make that bitch Stacy make a face like, she knew I looked good. Couldn't stand it. But instead, I'd be stuck with this. So when I sat down at the table, I launched straight into bargaining. I had it all worked out. I would mow the lawn every day all summer, and surely that would buy me a new dress, right? I sat back and waited for my mom to respond. But from the look on her face, I could tell this wasn't a dress conversation. She slid an envelope across the table to me and told me we'd received a letter from my mother. In a 2005 Tennessee Law Review, Elizabeth Samuels found that in most states, adoption consent can be given and become irrevocable almost immediately after the child's birth. Once a mother gives up her rights to the child, there's little legal recourse to be taken to reestablishing contact. For many parents, the reasons for giving up on a child vary, but the desire is often the same, that the child grow up in a healthy, happy home. Mariska Hargitay, Law & Order SVU actress, said, "I tell everybody, adoption is not for the faint of heart." What Hargitay is trying to tell us is that with adopted children, there are many unforeseen circumstances that can arise. A Letter from My Mother by Lynn Harris. I guess I should back up a bit. I'm adopted. My parents never tried to hide that from me. Of course, it'd be difficult to not notice the lack of family resemblance. My mom is barely 5 feet tall, and Dad's pretty short himself. I was taller than them both by the time I was 12. My parents wanted to have kids, but after years of trying, it was obvious that they weren't going to have their own. So they adopted, and they've been great. I've never felt anything but loved. My parents have treated me with toys, gifts, presents, and activities, vacations, everything that I needed, and most of what I wanted. I wasn't spoiled, but I was happy. My biological mother had me when she was my age. As a high school senior herself, she figured she couldn't take care of me. So she gave me up. As part of the adoption, she waived all rights to contact me. Until this letter, I hadn't heard anything from her at all. I wasn't sure what to make of it at first. What could she possibly want? I hadn't had contact with her since the nurses took me from her arms minutes after I was born. It'd been 17 years. Curious about what could be so important, I opened the letter. Dear daughter, I hope you've had a great life with your adoptive parents. I wish that this letter had better news. I've recently been diagnosed with Huntington's disease. Because of the hereditary nature of the disease, my doctor instructed me to inform you of the diagnosis so you might also see your doctor. I'm so sorry. I passed the letter to my mom. She went a little pale, but told me that we'd contact Dr. Parker and set up an appointment for the next day. I knew something was up when Dr. Parker's nurse took me and Mom back to his office. I mean, normally we'd go in the exam room and I'd sit up on this paper-covered table. But this time I got to sit on a nice leather couch, and Dr. Parker had 2 other doctors with him, Dr. Wilcox and Dr. Corey. Dr. Parker explained that he wasn't expert enough in Huntington's to give me all the information I might need. Dr. Wilcox was some sort of rare disease expert. Dr. Wilcox explained that Huntington's was a genetic anomaly that's passed from parent to child. If the parent has the disease, then the child has a 50% chance of also having it. So what happens if I have this disease? If I was going to have a disease, I wanted to know what came next, what I could be looking at. Dr. Wilcox proceeded to tell me that the first symptoms were typically subtle, with mood or cognition. Perfect. Just what a hormonal teenager needed, right? Now I have to worry that my moods could be some sort of sign of this disease. Still not terrible. But Dr. Wilcox continued and told me that after mood shifts would come uncoordinated, jerky body movements and a decline in mental abilities. From the onset of symptoms, life expectancy was only 20 years. And there's no cure. So, if I have this stupid disease, I can count the days till the end, right? Fuck you, you fucking gene donor. I never asked for anything from you. I was happy. And this is your gift to me? Fuck you. I just want my mom to hold me and tell me that everything's gonna be okay. As I reach for her hand, Seeing that I was verging on a mental breakdown, Dr. Corey stepped in. She was a psychologist. She didn't want us to get ahead of ourselves. We didn't know anything yet. She said that there was some sort of test to be taken to see if I even had the gene for the disease. If I wanted to take the test, then I'd have to meet with her several times beforehand to discuss how I might take the results. Her calm voice didn't take away my fears. I had a 50% chance of having this terrible disease with no cure. I started meeting with Dr. Corey not long after. In our meetings, we discussed this anger I felt towards my birth mother for potentially passing me the disease. It's taken me a long time, but I know now that she didn't have a choice either. And we also discussed my choice to get tested. On the one hand, at least I would know. On the other hand, I would know. I'm not sure what I would do if I had it. Some studies say that people with Huntington's are something like 8 times as likely to commit suicide when symptoms occur. I can't imagine leaving Mom and Dad like that. But the disease is really scary. You know, it's funny because just a month ago, I was worried about this stupid dance where my date ended up dugging with his friends all night, and the only person that complimented my dress was Stacy. I did get the test. I got the results back today. And as I hold this envelope in my hand, I'm reminded of all the letters I thought I'd be anxious to open this year, from colleges, telling me whether or not I'd get to spend the next 4 years in their institute, not whether or not the next 4 years could be my last. I still don't know if I'm strong enough to open it.
Welcome back to the Northwest Speaking Bearcats Showcase. Our next performer will be Miss Emma Draper with Poetry Interpretation.
My name is Emma Draper. I am a freshman and I'm a pre-med major. And my name of my piece is called With Fire and Blood. It is about the Khaleesi, which is in Game of Thrones. And it is like trying to reframe the way we view women. So like instead of being this small, delicate flower, it like with fire and blood, it's like hardcore. I don't know.
I am the dragon's heir, and as I weep out grief, I am reformed in fire. I will resurrect legends from the funeral pyres. I will make kings tremble as the flames lick higher. I am the mother of dragons.
My first poem is about this dragon queen, and she's talking about how no matter, like, even though she doesn't know like what the throne is, she like no matter what, she's gonna like stand her guard, and she's the dragon queen. And then my second one's called The Mother of Dragons, and she talks about how like she wants her daughter to be born in the year of the dragons because it's like fire within, and it makes you like more powerful. And she says that if the whole world is praying for sons, give me every girl. The book I use, it enhances the performance. So like there's a part where I talk about how I have an accessory, so I like act like I'm putting a purse on, and I like make it, or I use it as a baby towards the end. So it just like everything that I use for it, it like enhances the performance. To be even like remotely good at speech, you have to not be afraid to be yourself and like go crazy, which you'll see when you see me perform because I look like a crazy person. Anyway, at the end of the poetry program, I want people to like rethink about how like the gender norms that we impose on our society, just like trying to change the way we view women. I think it could overall benefit the society.
I am the Dragon Queen, my flawless flesh forged in fire and sin. He has no inkling as he glides his hungry hands of the scales beneath my skin, of the danger he is in. I am traded like a horse for the sake of my face. I bring a warlord to his knees with nothing but grace. And no, I am not asked where my heart lies. I am a war prize made warrior. And as my monster king plunders the earth till it bleeds, my hair remains white as bone. I hope my daughter's born in the year of the dragon. My entire pregnancy, a fever, watery mouth, and craving raw meat. I hope my daughter hatches. Hot coal and Khaleesi. I dream this fairy tale. Because having a girl wasn't always a happy ending.
Oh, Khaleesi, you are so great and powerful. The beat of your dragon's wings welcome your enemies to fire and anguish. Your beauty and splendor are worth honor and praise. But I really just wish we could hang out, because having the Mother of Dragons as your BFF would be pretty kick-ass.
The only reason why I started watching this show was because the guy I was seeing was so into it. He kept saying that the show was amazing and the action was so intense and the characters were so cool. Yeah, I know. Some of us don't have the linguistic gift to turn phrases and weave words. But I liked him, so I was willing to give the show a try. According to Entertainment Weekly on July 9th, 2014, the Khaleesi was the 18th most popular name for baby girls this year. This shows an increase on not only the fandom of Game of Thrones, but the influence of Daenerys Targaryen, who is quickly becoming a female role model and feminist icon. Creator George R.R. Martin explains, "To me, being a feminist is treating all men and women the same. Yes, there are differences, but most of the differences come from the culture that we live in. Through the poetry Mother of Dragons by Tia Nicole, Dragon Queen by Laura Meehan, Ode to the Khaleesi by Lee Peterson, and my reactions to watching Game of Thrones Dany Edition by Lynn Harris, we try and create a new way to view women, with fire and blood, a program." Let me first say, I'm amazed I made it through the first couple of episodes. I mean, there were boobs everywhere, and the only occupation seemed to be wife or whore. Haven't taken a few psychology classes myself. I'm not completely unaware of the whole Madonna horror complex, but come on. If the artist known as Mage taught us anything, it's that we don't have to be one or the other, or either for that matter. But these were simpler times in a made-up land of male fantasy. I am the dragon's heir. I thrive even as the desert drowns me. I will lead my people through the darkness unflinchingly. And at the center of my power, you will find my virginity.
I know that high school can be a battlefield, a war zone that few escaped unscathed. That's why having a bestie with dragon power would be an asset, a tactical advantage. This season's must-have accessory. This fantasy in our head of us riding dragons over the land of Westeros is completely impossible. I don't have the right wardrobe. You're a fictional character. Dragons aren't real, but they should be.
A man on the bus flips open his wallet to 7 snapshots of laughing boys, tells me he is happy he doesn't have a daughter. This isn't fiction. I've heard these words recycled, mothers and fathers terrified that they will be cursed with a baby girl, another princess, needing some latchkey tower to cradle her weakness, every X chromosome a stigma.
We turn our boys into knights, dress their delicate flesh in armor. Somehow this isn't weakness for men, but you, princess. Whalebone corset your fames, fit from monikers like lamb or kitten, delicate and domesticated sugar, sweet pea, honey, something easily devoured, these quicksand incantations, these choke chain lullabies, these cages for beasts with breasts, these fables we write for our girls. I am the dragon's queen, and as I weep out grief, I will be reformed in fire. I will resurrect legends from the funeral pyre. I will make kings tremble as the flames lick higher. I am the mother of dragons. I command love over respect and fear. Every head that will roll will pay the debt of a tear, and though I have not seen the throne I crave, I will challenge every sneer from every man who deems me unworthy. For I have the dragon's heart. Like I said, barely made it through the first couple of episodes. The woman I was most worried about was Daenerys Targaryen. She was this waif of a woman who couldn't even speak her mind to her own brother. And what a piece of shit he was. Thankfully, he died in a less popular bucket challenge, one with melted gold instead of ice. He says, womanly strength is a myth. I say, I will weave a story in this womb coated in thick skin and cinder. If the whole world is praying for sons, give me every girl. I will flute key the titan and them awake. They will call me the mother of dragons, keeper of leviathans, a fire whisperer, yes, girl. A volcano rests on your tongue. Know when to blow smoke and when it's time to drop jaw and burn everything down. Beware of men whose only tools are the swords they swing. Only date men familiar with the inside of a furnace, who have the soot-covered scars to prove it. Baby girl, buy a pen, paper, a publishing company. Don't let your story be written by those whose plots turned your downfall into a victory. You are nobody's headdress. But oh, Dany, not only did she assert herself for the new husband so that he would see her as a queen and not a broodmare, but she became an inspiration to her people, the Khaleesi. And as we saw the waft disappeared, we saw the embers of a warrior spirit grow. And as she says, fire cannot kill a dragon. Good thing, too, since she thought it would be a good idea to walk into a bonfire. Out of the crucible, we got dragons. Everyone else on the show has swords and knives and big-ass wolves. You know what beats all that? Motherfucking dragons. Adorable, kitten-sized dragons, but they were still dragons. And that makes Dany the true heir to the Iron Throne, the Khaleesi, the mother of dragons. That's a resume. You walk in with that, you're hired. And when their lips whisper once upon a time, they are not telling your story. Your fate doesn't rest on glass slipper or on white stallion or on a kiss. You are so much mythical magic that you would bust the seams off of any princess dress. So, my girl, enter this world on wings, screaming crimson and gold, blazing and bright as sunrise. Break the dawn like an eggshell. You are welcome in these arms. And I hope the world is ready for you. Maybe the lesson of the Khaleesi isn't that fantasy isn't real. Maybe the lesson of the Khaleesi is that we all have fire within, that we do and take what is ours with fire and blood. That I don't have to be anyone's little princess anymore. Oh, beautiful and wonderful Dany, this is why you were my queen. Oh, great Khaleesi. Heed me and learn that nothing men can forge can shake my resolve. I'm the Dragon Queen. Kneel or burn.
Our final performance tonight will be a dramatic duo interpretation featuring Ben Fisnick and Hugh Slayton. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm Ben Fisnick. I'm a freshman, and I'm here to run my duo interpretation I do for forensics competitions with my partner. So.
Yeah. I'm his partner, Hugh Slayton. I'm a sophomore here at Northwest, majoring in biochemistry. The piece that we're going to perform for you guys today is a program of duo interpretation, spliced together with a lot of individual sort of scripts and pieces to come up with some overall meaning or argument.
We named our piece Imagination, and it's a program piece, so it's got a lot of different scripts put into it, and we kind of move from one piece to the other. One of the pieces we use is fairly similar. It's from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, which was a cartoon on the Cartoon Network when
we were kids.
When we were kids, it wasn't even that long.
Not too bad.
I mean,
yeah. So while those are sort of more of the cartoony aspects of it, we also throw in a poetry piece called The Hype Man. Essentially what The Hype Man is about this guy who essentially needs sort of like a pick-me-up. The Hype Man is essentially just encouraging him to do things and getting him riled up about just everyday tasks.
Cause see, a hype man is more than a wingman.
This ain't no fried chicken.
A wingman will stand by you in the club.
Yeah, I'll take the ugly friend.
But a hype man will stand by you in a fight.
Pretty sure Rocket took the big guy.
And essentially what we're trying to do with this piece is to encourage people to go back to their creative sides, go back to the drawing boards of their childhood, for instance, and watch Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends and read Calvin and Hobbes and not judge themselves for doing that.
A lot of pieces deal with a lot of real world aspects. They deal with a lot of solutions and stuff, and you find problems that deal with world hunger, they deal with, murder rates or sexual abuse. And so we kind of have a different take on a lot of this. Ours has a big problem too, but it's a lot more of it's a creative thing.
Yeah.
So it's very unique, very original. You can very much get to the point where you're in an individual event and you can just go and work and work and work this and crank it out. And when you've got time in between class or 10 minutes or half an hour of downtime, you can go and you can run your speech. Can't really do that with duo.
No, you have to work well together, you have to have good chemistry, and if all of those things come together all right, you will have a good duo.
It's horrible. A total travesty. I can't. Juice. I need juice. So my boy Mac, the guy that we all know and love, is a big, giant nerd.
What's up, Blue?
Maybe you should tell me, Mac, if that's your real name. I know the secret, Steven.
What?
Oh, you're good. You're real good. But I have it from an incredibly reliable source, me, that you are a big, giant nerd.
No, I'm not, Blue.
You want to do this the hard way? We can do this the hard way. When an adult man stands in front of a group of people and seriously discusses how long it's been since he's talked to people that don't actually exist, most people either smile politely, nod, and back away slowly, or they assume he's some sort of an artist. In which case they smile politely, nod, and back away as quickly as possible.
Imaginary friends aren't always invisible. Sometimes they're called personified objects, teddy bears, or dolls that children treat as real or animate. Probably the most famous personified object is Hobbes, from the cartoon strip Calvin and Hobbes.
Hello, Hobbes. It's been a while, old pal.
Sure has, Calvin.
You haven't changed a bit.
You've changed a lot.
Really? I hadn't noticed at all.
There are times I wish the Coke bottle in my throat had a quiet audience. Like it was begging you to sit down and listen. There are moments, though, ones like this in which the battalions of butterflies come dance from beneath my shoulder blades. Sometimes it gets too quiet. And due to the constant flapping of the monarch, the breach of air by wings, well, sometimes I just need a hype man.
Yeah, I'm a butterfly, what?
On October 17th, 2007, Matt Stone and Trey Parker released a 3-part episode of their hit TV show South Park called Imagination Land.
The story arc tackles the notion of what we consider imaginary in a post-9/11 society.
Parker and Stone went on to win the 2008 Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program for 1 hour or more for their story.
The point Stone and Parker try to make is that if we reject our creative selves, then we're gonna have a bad time.
Harvard psychology professor Susan Carey argues that most creative minds initially start off by copying what we view in the media.
Through the drama Bye Bye Nerdy, from Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends,
The TED Talks, Imaginary Friends by Evan Kidd,
and Adults Need More Imaginary Friends by Andrew Rodlyer,
The Prose, Calvin and Hobbes, One Last Talk with Hobbes by Samurai Tiger 19,
and The Poetry Hype Man by Chad Anderson and Connor Dooley,
we present to you a program challenging the idea that imaginary friends are only for little kids.
Imagination.
A program. I dreamt last night that I was famous, that supporting me throughout my very own life was my own hype man.
Faded into montage.
Someone to be there throughout my developing years to teach me what it takes to be a man.
Premature upon his mattress.
All those times when I was lost in love, trying to hold on to my heart before I lost it to the girl of my dreams.
Premature upon his mattress.
Imaginary friends are quite common. Up to 65% of children at one point in their development may invent one.
For some kids, imaginary friends are created for company when playing alone, but for others, they're more meaningful. Whatever their purpose, however long they stick around, imaginary friends are not trivial. In fact, there's a growing body of research exploring the ways in which imaginary friends contribute to children's development.
As it turns out, there are many benefits associated with having an imaginary friend, some of which extend into adulthood. What I'm going to argue today is that these benefits are symptomatic, or derived from one of childhood's most pleasurable but beneficial activities, play.
Where were you on the night of last Tuesday at 10:24 p.m.?
Please
Tuesday, answer in the form of a question.
Last Tuesday night I was in bed.
Nerd. Only nerds go to bed at 10:24 p.m. on Tuesdays.
But my bedtime is at 10 o'clock.
Overruled.
Blue, this is stupid. I'm not a nerd.
Oh, really, Mac? Then why do I have this picture of you wearing ugly, taped-up, Coke bottle-shaped glasses?
You drew those on me with a Sharpie. Plus a mustache. Someone over my shoulder to be there in the darkness and to guide me to the light.
Illuminate all over your shadow.
'Cause see, a hype man is more than a wingman.
This ain't no fried chicken.
A wingman will stand by you in the club.
Yeah, I'll take the ugly friend.
But a hype man will stand by you in a fight.
I'm pretty sure Rock can take the big guy.
But the benefits of having an imaginary friend don't stop there.
The adult versions of our childhood imaginary friends are active experiences that involve creative storytelling.
Children with imaginary friends have been shown to produce more complex spoken narratives than children without them, which is to say that they're better storytellers.
Most adults are encouraged to engage in this active creating process by telling stories directly. Painting, writing, drawing, acting, and composing.
Not surprisingly, creative writers have a higher than normal incidence for childhood imaginary friends.
Okay, Mac, now the rules of cool are complex. You can't just copy my cool because then we'll both have the same cool and that's not cool. You have to develop your own unique sort of coolness.
Okay, I got an idea. How about I wear sunglasses?
Sunglasses, Mac? Are you kidding me? You're years away from sunglasses. Decades, even.
A wingman will make you go ask girls for their number.
Yo, who got the digits?
But a hype man will make girls ask for yours.
You know you want these digits! Okay, Mac, let's review. What did we learn from watching the Kung Fu movie marathon?
Okay, to be cool, you must be one with yourself mentally and physically.
No, it's all about talking like this. You have disgraced my people. We shall engage in combat. Now, what did we learn from boy bands?
Okay, it's cool to express yourself through art and creativity.
Wrong again. It's all about hair gel. What else?
In basketball, I learned that teamwork is cool.
I guess. But remember, the sneakers make the man, which is why I got you these sneakers, size 48s. Size matters, Mac.
See, the hype man is the ideal best friend. He agrees with everything you say, and even his questions are affirmations of his solidarity.
What?
He may not have the most sesquipedalian vocabulary.
What?
He may not be able to speak before a certain decibel level. What? He may not know that you've been sleeping with his girlfriend behind his back.
What?
But he's there.
In your face!
Making every idiotic thing I say sound smarter and righter.
This is so right-tastic, man! You know, I visited you a bunch of times in the attic.
I know.
I couldn't see you, though. All I saw was this stuffed animal.
You grew up, old buddy.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I promised I'd never grow up. I promised we'd be together forever.
But you didn't.
What do you mean?
We were always together. In our dreams.
We were?
Yeah, we were.
Hobbs,
Yeah, old buddy?
I'm so glad I got to see you this way. One last time.
Me too, Calvin. Me too.
Goodbye, Hobbs. Thanks. For everything.
No, Calvin. Thank you. Because see, in every nonsensical soundbite, the hype man has the beautiful brilliance to find the brilliance like
The twilight field of fireflies, dancing in luminescent spirals, a constellation of insects that thinks they're even greater than the night sky.
a reflection of limitless possibility.
Yo, I'm a spinner, not a quitter.
The hype man. A voice so powerful, he makes basic observations sound profound.
Oh no, he didn't.
What kind of adults do we want today's children to become? Do we want children who are well tutored in test taking but who are susceptible to stress and disorder? Or do we want children who are well tutored and equipped for the problems of tomorrow? If we want the latter, then I suggest that we start taking play a little bit more seriously.
After all, this story, this imaginary friend, sticks with you for a reason. Why? If you think you're doing a childish exercise, then you're probably doing something exactly right.
Because the brilliance of the hype man is that he repeats the last 3 words of anything I say, taking something so simple and making it sound different and beautiful. Don't believe the hype.
Believe the hype!
We like to wish all of these performers the best of luck as the season continues. I'm Dante Jones, and thank you for watching.